Ethan followed the coordinates extracted from the encrypted files, his breath fogging in the cold night air. The city's outskirts stretched before him, an endless sprawl of forgotten infrastructure, abandoned warehouses, and streets swallowed by creeping ivy. But his destination wasn't on any map. According to official records, this place didn't exist. And yet, as he stood there, staring at the looming shadows beyond the industrial zone, he could feel something watching him. He pressed forward. The closer he got, the more unnatural everything felt. The road beneath his boots was cracked, but not completely abandoned. Faint tire tracks, too recent to be dismissed, marked the ground. Someone had been here. Maybe they still were. As he moved past a rusted fence, the air changed. A slight pressure in his skull, like stepping through an unseen barrier. His surroundings flickered for a brief moment, almost like static on an old television screen. Then everything settled, and he found himself standing at the edge of a city that shouldn't exist. Buildings, whole city blocks stretching into the distance. Yet there were no signs of life, no cars, no streetlights, no distant hum of civilization. The structures were intact, but their windows were dark, their walls eerily clean as if frozen in time. He walked cautiously through the empty streets, the sound of his own footsteps unnervingly loud. Then he saw it, a door slightly ajar, light spilling from within. Ethan approached, heart pounding. He reached for the handle and pushed it open, revealing an apartment that looked as if someone had just stepped out moments ago. A steaming cup of coffee on the counter, a jacket draped over a chair, a notebook left open mid-sentence. His fingers hovered over the pages. The handwriting was familiar. His own. He staggered back. Impossible. He had never been here before. Had he? The static returned, stronger this time. The walls seemed to ripple, the edges of the room distorting. He grabbed the notebook, flipping through the pages. It was filled with entries detailing things he had never written, encounters he had never experienced, people he didn't remember, but who seemed to know him. A name appeared again and again in the margins, scrawled in desperation. She's still here. Find her. Before he could process the meaning, the lights flickered, and a whisper filled the air just behind him. Ethan, you came back. He spun around, but there was no one there. The city wasn't abandoned after all. And now, it knew he was here. The air grew heavier, pressing against his chest. He felt his pulse quicken, his instincts screaming at him to leave. Yet something held him in place, a magnetic pull deeper into the city. He stepped back onto the street, glancing at the towering structures surrounding him. A faint glow pulsed from the alleyways, like neon veins running through the veins of a sleeping beast. Ethan moved cautiously, his senses on high alert. Shadows shifted in the periphery of his vision, fleeting figures disappearing before he could focus on them. The buildings, though lifeless at first glance, felt like silent watchers. He turned a corner and found another anomaly, a street sign that flickered between two different names, as if uncertain which reality it belonged to. His radio crackled in his ear. Static. Then a voice, distant and fragmented. You shouldn't be here. It wasn't the same whisper from before. This one was urgent, warning. Leave before they notice. Ethan's grip tightened around the notebook he had taken from the apartment. The name scrawled inside echoed in his mind. Who was she? And why had someone left this message for him? He pressed forward, determined. He had come too far to turn back now. As he crossed an intersection, the street lights above flickered on, one by one, in sequence, as if guiding his path. He followed their lead, moving deeper into the city's heart. Then he saw it. A building standing at the center of an empty square, its entrance wide open, beckoning. A mural covered its facade, depicting scenes that sent a shiver through him. Faces, distorted yet eerily familiar. Places he had seen in his dreams. He reached out, tracing a finger over the painted surface. A sudden shock ran through his arm, and the world around him blurred. His vision swam, and for a brief moment, he saw another version of the city, bustling, alive, filled with people who turned to look at him with hollow, knowing eyes. The next instant, he was back in the silence. But he knew now, this city wasn't a ruin. It was waiting, and he had just awakened it.